Greetings, everyone. This is the Cosmic Consciousness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel Sage. And today I have the pleasure of having a friend from a mutual friend that participates in a couple of groups that we do. And it's been an interesting introduction to Kaylene Granado-Nemececk. And so rather than the usual practice of me, reading a little introduction, I would like Kaylene to kind of just provide her own little bio intro, and then we'll just dive into some questions and conversations about Kaylene. So,
Depends on what you wanna know in my little bio here. My name is Kaylene Granado-Nemececk. Yes, Dr. Sage said it absolutely correct, which a lot of people don't. Uh, what do you wanna know about me? I haven't the slightest idea. I have met Dr. Sage in, a mutual group, as he said, which is pretty cool. It's like a mutual spiritual group, and then there's also another group, where we talk about higher conscience, things like that. I coached volleyball for 27 years, no longer a coach, haven't been a coach for about the last 3 years, which is probably a good thing for me. I currently, work for a city and county. I, work in the right-of-way enforcement division. I'm a manager there. Um, what else do you wanna know?
well, let me ask you. You did grow up and in the Denver area, Aurora, whatever. Where'd you go to elementary school? You remember?
Yeah, so yeah, I think so. Yep, I do. So I grew up, in the east side of Denver, which is down by Curtis Park, and, that's where I grew up in a few different areas, but I grew up down there. I went to elementary down there to Mitchell Elementary, which I don't even know if it's still there or if it's still named the same. It may not be at this point, but it was in the east side by Curtis Park, and then I ended up moving to North Denver, lived there for a while, and then moved to Aurora when I was in 7th grade, and that is how I met our mutual friend. She was teaching 7th grade, so, that is where I went to school at, was Aurora, and then I went to high school in Aurora and ended up going to college from that high school experience playing volleyball.
So where'd you go to high school?
I went to Hinckley High School in Aurora.
Hinckley, yeah, sure. Yeah, I taught there for a little while, just briefly before getting
Really?
into oh, yeah, just, this is, you know, long, long ago. I think you probably had graduated by then. And then college, where'd you go to college? I don't think we've ever talked about that.
Yeah, I went to college at Adams State,
Mhm.
down in Alamosa, Colorado, and I played volleyball there. I ended up playing all 4 of my years there, but I ended up redshirting my 1st year. So the 1st year I didn't play, but I played the next 4 years. I wouldn't say that there were many people who made it through 4 years of volleyball under the coach that we had, but it was good times. It was a good experience. It was tough, being in college in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
but it was a good fun experience. I actually didn't finish my degree, long story, but I ended up not finishing it for 17 years, and then I finally finished it.
Did you finish it at Adams State?
No, I finished it at so I'm a road runner. I
Oh,
finished it
yes.
at Metro.
Metro State, yes,
Yep,
sure. Well,
so I
now it
usually
was probably a
it's Metro
college
State
then.
University. No,
Yeah.
so I'm like the 1st class, I think, where it was actually Metro State University.
Wow. Yeah.
So I didn't have to get my diploma fixed like so many people did afterwards, but yeah, no.
So I know I'm gonna jump past this for a minute, but since you've mentioned volleyball a couple of times, what got you interested in volleyball and what was your position? Bump, set, spike. I mean, I'm guessing you were
Yeah, that it's more intricate than that. Yeah, it actually is. So I started playing in 7th grade, and I don't think I really got serious. I didn't get serious till my freshman year. We had a coach that, just came in. Um, our school hadn't been very good at volleyball and hasn't been since, but we had this coach who came in and just pushed me in the sport, and, I was 5'6" outside hitter. Uh about a 26-inch vertical, which really helped me. That's how I got to college because without it, there's no way. And so she pushed me for 3 years. She was there for 3 years, pushed me to the max. And, it was tough, but it was worth it because that's what got me to college for sure.
Yeah,
And, then I ended up coaching while I was in college and then just kinda stuck with it until about 3 years ago. So, it was a good experience playing, and then, I got to travel while I was playing, which was cool. I got to experience a lot of stuff. I think the hardest part was the workouts. We did 3 a days then, which they do 2 a days now, but back then it was 3 a days during you went to school early, you went to school 2 weeks prior to anybody else, and you
yeah,
worked out 3 times a day, and it was tough.
yeah. So where did you coach just in one place at college, high school, where middle school?
Well
Where
yeah, well, I coached at high school. I coached down in Alamosa at Alamosa High School, under a head coach there. And then, I could have coached in college, but I botched that. So I would have been Adams State probably after, the coach I had, which was Vivian Frosto. I would have coached after her and taken over the program, but I did not. Things did not work out that way for me. So I ended up coming back, um, to Denver, and then I coached here. I coached at Regis Jesuit for 13 years, as a JV coach, and then, I went out on my own as a head coach. I coached at Regis Jesuit. My last gig was at, Byers, which they changed to
right,
Cedar. It's now Cedar, but it was Byers when I was there. Coached there for 4 seasons. Also coached down at, Legacy High School for a
yeah.
season, and then that's pretty much my career. Alamosa High School, I think I coached a few years there, like a couple at least, a few years down there. So I had been coaching since, geez, I don't know, 95, something like that. 95. So,
Well,
yeah.
you would never know this about me, but I went to an NAIA college. I did not play volleyball, but the college that I went to was called Grayson College at the time, Lamoni, Iowa, a little school. And I think when I was going, there was about 1,400 students. Now it's a
Yeah.
university, much like Metro,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
they would have a Big G tournament, and UCLA, Ohio State, a lot of the
Yeah.
NCAA powerhouse schools would come in, and Graceland would beat them. They
Wow. Yeah.
they yeah, I mean, they would win. I don't know if you're familiar with that school, but they would win the NAIA. It was almost, every year it seems like. Rod Scholl
Wow.
was the coach, but that got me familiar with power volleyball. I would go and just watch the practices. It was
Yeah,
pretty
we were NAIA actually when I first started. When I first started at
neat.
Adams State, they were NAIA. We were NAIA, and then we switched to NCAA 2,
Mhm.
um, after my freshman year. So, I went down there freshman year, didn't play, so then it would be my freshman year again for volleyball. I played 1 year of NAIA, 3 years of NCAA 2, Division
Yeah,
2.
cool.
And, Metro might have been in I don't know if Metro was NAIA or if they were NCAA 2 by then, but everybody like Mesa State, Western State, all those schools were NAIA
Yeah, yeah,
until like 92.
yeah.
I think it was
Well,
92
okay,
when they
so, to really rewind the tape here, um, you grew up, this is as much as I know, and you can answer whatever part of this you would like or
Sure,
ignore whatever parts you like, but you had, some real challenges,
sure.
growing up.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't
Yeah.
just a typical, going to school and coming home and, doing
Nope.
homework.
Yeah, no,
So
no, it wasn't. I had 4 older sisters. Um, I grew up, in a single parent home. I never met my dad. So it was just us growing up. My sisters actually ended up in foster care for about 7 years, so it was just me with my mom for a long time. And, my mother was a practicing alcoholic, so I feel like I've been taking care of her since I was in diapers. I feel like the role reversal has been around forever. So that's been a thing for me is, taking care of my mom. I'm still taking care of my mom. I mean, if I counted the years that I haven't lived with her or that she hasn't lived with me, it would be 7 years. and I'm 53, about to be 54 in January. So, I kinda feel like my parenting started when I was in diapers, like, I have memories back to when I was in diapers. That's how.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. I do. I have memories back to when I was in diapers, lots of things. So, yeah, it wasn't the normal, I kinda raised myself, but, we were all latchkey kids if you were, brought up in the '70s, '80s, you kinda did what you wanted to, you kinda took care of yourself. When my sisters moved back in, I had, my oldest sister is 10 years older than I am, she kinda became the surrogate mom because my mom was either at work or at the bar, take your pick. But, my mom is, in my eyes, she did the best that she could with the skills that she was handed, So, I think that, I don't harbor I don't h I think I used to, but I don't now, as a teenager, you harbor those ill feelings of, abandonment and feeling like, you weren't cared for, blah, 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 but as I've grown older, I've just realized that she did the best she could with the skills that she was handed from her own mother, and even back then, it was more harsh of a time, Um, so, I wasn't always a good kid, I guess. I didn't always have the best upbringing, but I had several adults that stepped in and guided me all the way through.
So, what were the things that make you think you were not a good kid?
Oh, man. I'm not. It's so funny. I'm not, I don't know if this is kind of a harsh word. I mean, I'm not dumb per se, but I was dumb in the fact that I didn't, apply myself to my education. I just didn't care. It didn't matter to me. I got great grades in elementary, I got to middle school and to high school, and I just didn't care. So my grades sucked. And like I said, it's not a lack of smarts, it was just I just didn't care. So, I didn't go to class when everybody else was going to class, or I went to class and didn't do my work. I was just a hardcore, tough kid. All my life I had to struggle because, I was brought up in a Hispanic home, Latino, but, growing up mixed, being half black, half Mexican, but I never thought of myself as half black because I met my dad once and supposedly he had an accent. So, it was like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican, like that's any different, right? But I was really against, I guess being black because the culture then was very different. Like not only was in the '70s, I mean, we're still what like just a few years out of, you know, uh, Martin Luther King fighting for, rights of, African Americans to have the same rights as everyone else. So I was too light for black people, but too dark for Mexicans. So I struggled my entire life, my high school life, my middle school life, my elementary life, struggled, being called a nigger or not being, and yes, I did use that word because it's a real word. It happens every day. And that was what I was called. So every day I was in a fight at school, every single day, whether it was with the black kids, the white kids, the Mexican kids. So I had a hard time fitting in. I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. And I don't feel like I fit in anywhere until I moved to Aurora. And when we moved to Aurora, it was kinda like Hinckley was like it was dominated more by white kids than it was any other race at that time, but it was like I just kind of felt like I finally found a place, and maybe it's as you get older, you know, it's not as harsh of an environment as elementary because elementary, you're still and middle school, you're still going through that phase of, you know, you're just blurting stuff out. You're not even thinking about what you're saying. So, I kinda just feel like it was a struggle for me, due to the color of my skin. And sometimes it still is. I still go through stuff like that as an
Mhm.
adult, but, then that was part of what was going on with me. So, I think, being accepting myself, it took a long time for me to even be able to do that. And I
Yeah.
can't say that was done then, it wasn't. Took me a long, long time to get to where I'm at today.
Well, and this is a question that, maybe I shouldn't even be asking, probably should have, talked about this before, but, on top of struggling with trying to come to grips with your own racial identity, there are other aspects of your identity that you're also kind of coming into awareness with or recognizing, differences. What can you talk about that if you know what I'm referring to?
I think I guess I maybe know what you're referring to, I don't know, but, I probably do, but, so in the family that I was brought up in, um, where I was like, races were still very much pitted against each other, and so my sisters used to really tease me, and they would be like, "Oh my god, you're gonna marry a black guy, you're gonna be gay," or whatever, so I had this my own internal struggle because the stigmatism was, "Oh my god, I can't marry a black guy." So, in college, I dated a black guy in college and hid it the entire time, but at the same time I was also dating someone else who was a white guy, and I actually ended up marrying him, and, my opinion of myself was that, I better just marry this guy because I'm probably never gonna find somebody who's gonna love me the way that he loves me, and, so he ended up going to the military, I ended up going to college, so we were split, but we would fly out every here and there, da da da. Long story short, he cheated on me. I said, "Nope, I'm done." And this just happened to happen like right before the summer. I started playing softball, and then all of a sudden I realized that, oh, well, maybe I like girls too. So, I ended up dating females. I ended up doing like a 180 switch. And but for me, I feel like I'm more in the middle, like I'm one of the lucky people who has a choice. And I've dated guys, I've dated women, but I prefer females because, they're they're more emotional, you know. And I'm kind of, like, not too emotional, so it's like, get 2 unemotional people together, and what do you have? A brick wall, right? Like, so and guys just aren't as emotional as females are, and then the guys that are emotional are gay, so like it's like, what do you do, I mean, I'm sure there's some great guys out there, though, that are emotional or that talk about their feelings and stuff that are married to women, I'm sure that's fine, but I just never met any. So for me, I'm lucky, I guess. I don't know if I went down the path that you were looking for me to go
Mhm.
down, but
Yeah,
that's where I'm at now. I mean, I'm married to a female. We've been together coming up 20 years. We've been married 5 years coming up here in December. January was our January 23rd is when we had the ceremony, but December 23rd was it's on our paperwork because it's when we went to go get our papers, and the lady talked us into just getting married right there, so we didn't have to come back, so we said, "Okay," and we were both in hats and dressed down, and it was kind of hilarious how it happened, but it happened. So, yeah, so we're coming up on 5 years married, 20 years together.
wow. Do you think because I don't know if you would label it bisexuality or however you would have that awareness about your own identity, but that, some people come into their sexual awareness, their sexual identity relatively early. But I've talked to a number of people like you who, and it may be a byproduct of bisexuality to come into that awareness later. Um, that you're talking about college years or
Yeah.
even post college years when it's um, your own internal voices are starting to give you messages that maybe you hadn't been in tune with before.
I think I always was in tune, but I didn't know what it was, if that makes any sense.
Mhm, mhm.
Um I think I was always attracted to women, but I didn't know what that attraction was, if that makes sense. Like,
Yes.
for example, all right, I'm gonna throw this example out there real quick, and I mean, I think I've talked to Tina about this, I've talked to other friends about this, maybe a few friends, but I don't think I've really put this out there publicly, and I certainly haven't put this out there on my podcast yet. But, um, I think that, as, I lost my train of thought there, dang it. Um, when it comes to when it comes to girls for me and it comes to guys, so if I had to compare the 2, for me, and Imma take this over the edge a little bit, I can't sleep with just any woman, like, I have to be emotionally involved with her. A man, though, easy for me. That is easy, like, I could have a one night stand any day of the week, and it's fine. But with a woman, I cannot have a one night stand, and I don't know what that's about,
Mhm.
honestly, but the intimacy is very different. And I just think that, that's what it was for me. So that's why I think that I didn't know what it was. Like, I was attracted to women, like, I was like, I liked beautiful women, but I never thought about, "Oh, I wanna date you," you know what I mean? Or I don't think, "Oh, I wanna get into your pants," you know? Or I
Mhm.
don't think like, "Oh my god, look at his body," you know, like, I do that with guys, like, I'll be like, "Oh my god, he has a nice set of pecs," you know, or "Look at his butt," but I don't do that with women, and I know that sounds, I don't know, maybe that's weird. I've never ever
Yeah.
heard anybody else talk about it this way. I've never, but that's how I am. I just I have a difference in that, and I would consider myself, yes, bisexual because I'm one of those people that, for me, I cannot stand the LGBTQRSTUV that has been tacked onto the end. Why can't everything just say simple? I just like my, so I'm simple, and I probably don't have the same views as a lot of people do either. Like, if we trail down to transgender in sports, I'm gonna say no. I'm one of those people that will say no. I'm bisexual, but no, I'm gonna say no. I'm
Yeah.
gonna side with probably the other side that says, and that's because I've coached both boys and girls. That's why. And I've seen a man hit a ball. I've seen a boy hit a ball, a volleyball, and they hit hell of a lot harder than girls.
Yeah.
It's just like a tennis ball. Men serve way faster than women. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
And you only lose like 15% body mass, but there hasn't really been enough studies, I feel like, that are out there that gives us a true mark. But they're saying you only lose like 15% muscle mass. How much more does a male have than a female? I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's more than 15%.
Yeah. Yeah. This is something that I think, we've had much more, not just research, but we've had much more open public and maybe even interpersonal private kinds of conversations about racial identity. That is much more in the forefront of our cultural consciousness.
Yeah,
And in fact, I think Spike Lee has provided all sorts of ways for us to discuss it. I'm thinking about, I think it's
sure.
the
Jungle
movie.
Fever?
Uh,
Jungle Fever was one of them.
well, even yeah, but I think
That's going way
maybe
back.
it is Jungle Fever, but I think there's a scene, and I think it's, She's Got to Have It or something like that, where there is a circle of women, and they're all talking about they're African American, but they're all talking about their different, shades of skin pigmentation and how
Uh-huh.
that's even stratified. Am I
Yeah.
talking about the wrong movie, or is it?
I don't know. I didn't see that movie, but I know that just that conversation, that's what I was basically saying,
Yeah,
is that, pigmentation matters to to some people in certain cultures. Like I said, I mean, I had to fight both ways,
yeah, yeah,
Didn't fit in. I was too light for black people, too dark for Mexicans. But if you
yeah,
look at it now, there's a lot of dark Mexicans running around.
yeah.
And if
Well,
you go to the islands or wherever, you go to Mexico to visit, when I go there, they know, they look at me and they're like, "Do you speak Spanish? What do you mean you don't speak Spanish?" Like, they recognize me as their peoples.
yeah,
So it's kinda
yeah,
interesting how that works.
yeah. Well, so we've had um, fairly healthy conversations about that racially, but I think we're too new to the sexual identity
Sure.
conversation to know really where that goes or where we're going to find more light and understanding. And
Yeah, and
so,
that's kinda blown up, hasn't it? Like, recently, like, it's really blown up and come to the forefront because if you look at it, like, the kids now, they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care about that kind of thing because, now they don't care. They'll have, like, a guy that's the queen, or they'll have different people with different identities, right? We didn't have that growing up. My group didn't have that growing up in the '80s. No
Yeah.
way. You still weren't gonna run around and parade around saying, "I'm gay." That's just or, "I like girls." That just wasn't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how much it has changed, but at the same time, there are other differences. There are many differences that, you know, aren't there or aren't apparent in any type of, whether it's work or whether it's relationship wise, whether it's sexuality. Yeah. Um, and I feel like we're behind in the United States, right? We're the only ones who are still stuck on, oh my God, they're gay kind of thing, or kind of
Yeah.
thinking. And, everybody else in the, in the UK or other places, they don't care.
Yeah.
They just don't care. And
Um,
maybe there still are some people that care, right? I mean, there still are
yeah.
gonna be groups like that
Yeah.
everywhere, I
Yeah.
think.
Have you ever gotten a sense from your wife? I mean, the path for self-discovery is similar in a lot of ways, but different for other folks in other ways.
Sure.
Ha have you ever had those kind of conversations with your wife? And,
Oh,
her
yeah.
name is Tina, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yep, and, yeah, I mean, for her, she knew. She's known since she was young that she was gay, and there's differences, and, I don't know how much of this she'll be mad at me for saying out loud, but I think she would be okay because I don't think she's embarrassed about it, but she's never even been with a male.
Mhm.
So she, for her, it was completely different, for me, totally different. So,
Yeah.
but she knew, I didn't know. I mean, but when you look back, you can see certain things that happened as a kid or certain people or kinds of groups that I gravitated towards, right? So, yeah, it was very different for her. But yeah, we've definitely talked about this kind of stuff. She's my sounding board, so
Mhm. Good.
there
Well
isn't much
well
she doesn't know about me.
well, kind of jumping back to your childhood. Some of the big significant challenges that you feel free to talk about single mother. In fact, I would like to ask you, we'll kind of put this on the back burner, but what kind of help do your sisters provide in taking care of your mom now, or how that plays out? But
Yeah.
in your formative years, there were some crosswinds and detours that you had to navigate, that I think a lot of people would find completely debilitating. But you,
There are a lot of detours and there are a lot of things that, I went through, one of them was, drug abuse, which is probably going to be, I think, my 2nd season, maybe not opener for my podcast, but, maybe my 2nd episode, but it will come in the next season of my podcast. But, yeah, I was a functioning drug addict at one point for about 2 years, but I'm one of those people that, mind over matter for me. It's never, I've never really had an addiction that I can't kick, except for, maybe rock stars that I drink now. But, you know, uh, yeah, I went through a lot of stuff. I've been through a lot of stuff, a lot of debilitating things that people, I mean, if I wrote a book, people wouldn't believe me. They would think, a lot of this stuff was made up. Um, there are a lot of things that influenced me as a kid, not only, so that was one of them. Um, going through we had a home invasion, when I was 10, and that still influences my life until this, till today, even today, it still influences my life and how I do certain things and how, um, you know, I lock my door, things like that, that influences me still. Um, yeah, there are a lot, a lot of things in my past that kind of were definitely debilitating, and somehow I've made it through, and I'm still here. I lost. my family was Catholic, we were brought up Catholic, but I knew at a young age that that wasn't gonna be what I was gonna be. Um, I think, as a kid, I've known I was always going to be a pagan. I was always not going to believe in Jesus Christ, and I think a lot of that happened because, um, of the negative connotation that comes with religion sometimes, organized religion, they have that they to me, it's always about, um, confession and feeling guilty, and, I think that's why I knew that. I just felt like it wasn't accepting, and I just can't understand a God, um, who would be cruel and who seeks revenge, you know? And so that's why I had a problem with, I think, religion very early on. Um, I just knew that there was something else out there for me. And, yeah, there was.
The influence of paganism in particular, did that come when you were a student in middle school, or when do you feel like that was coming in? Or is it later in life when you go, oh, that's what that is, and you can revisit it later in
Y
life?
yeah, that was, probably later in life, I would say, like, I wouldn't say yeah, I didn't get influenced by our friend, if that's what you're
Mm.
that's what you're
Okay.
asking, like, she didn't, she never I don't think she I think I already knew before then. I mean, I
Mhm.
honestly didn't even go to a ritual till after I was 18 years old. Like, she never said I don't think we ever talked about paganism or gods and goddesses until after I was 18. It was never a thing as a kid, and I think I don't know what that maybe that was because she didn't wanna influence me in that way, shape, or form, but I don't remember ever being influenced by her as far as where my religion stands and or not religion, my spirituality stands. Um, I've always known that it was something different. I mean, even I think I dove a lot deeper than she did, at times before she really took the dive where she's at now. So I just I feel like maybe that was something that was always between us, but it never came out until later.
Mhm.
Because I went to
Was
college. I went to college and we talked during those 4 years, but it wasn't like we talked every day. So, it wasn't until I got back that I got so that was in, 5 years after. I mean, I was in Alamosa for 5, 6 years, and then I came back, and that's probably when we started doing rituals or I started going to the rituals.
so your awareness, was it spiked by the intuition about nature, or okay, I don't want that with Catholicism, I would rather have something that's kind of non-institutional, non-organ I mean, how did those first impulses come to you about paganism? Do you remember?
About paganism, not particularly, but about Catholicism, absolutely early on, because I remember I think, I think a lot of people probably go through this. I think as a kid, when you pray for something and it doesn't come through or it falls through, you feel like you were let down, right? Like, I recall praying, that my mom would stop drinking or whatever, and it never came to fruition. So, I was like, screw this, you don't exist kind of thing, right? So I think maybe that was my first uh I guess, how do I say that? Like being angry at God, being mad and being like but it never really resonated with me. Even sitting in church, stand up, sit down, kneel, stand up, sit down, kneel, just never appealed to me. And you know what? I could walk in there today and I could still say everything that they say, and also with you, peace be with you, blah, blah, blah. I still know those cues when I go. I went to through catechism and all that, but I just think as we got older, we stopped going to church too. But, I mean, I went through my first Holy Communion, I didn't go through my confirmation, but I just feel like I don't know what truly influenced me or how it really, like, came about, to be honest with you. Um, I don't even recall, like, someone saying, "Hey, you should read this book." I think I just one day found myself in, like, a metaphysical store, and then I just was interested from there maybe. I don't even know. I can't even tell you, to be honest with you, like, when that came out of me or how that came out of me or what truly influenced me.
Yeah. So
That's
there
in
had to have been, I mean, if you don't remember, that's okay, but I'm thinking about the process of how this stuff, unfolds for us, and you're wandering through a bookstore, and I'm just using this as an
I
example.
know.
If this isn't right, then, you can check me on it, but you're wandering through a bookstore and you see books on paganism, but why paganism instead of, like, Taoism or something like that?
Right. I
The
mean,
big it resonates with you in a different way than some of the other choices.
okay. Yeah, now that you said that, so um I've always had this fascination with Egypt. And so reading about like the pharaohs and the things that they believed in, I really resonate with Isis and I resonated with their gods and goddesses. And I think that's probably where it started, actually.
Mhm, mhm,
Now that I think about it, I think that's probably where it started.
yeah.
So, as I got older, I would take like some classes about that stuff and it just interested me. And I think that's why. I think that's how that started for me.
Was this
And the
in,
Greeks, right? The Greek gods, how they
yeah,
had gods and goddesses, and, I
yeah.
think that's how I kind of got into that was because of those things, the
So
different
this is
cultures.
the time frame for this is kinda like college years, or is it?
Yeah, probably college years was when it
Yeah,
probably really started to come out, I would say,
yeah, yeah.
for sure, for sure.
So, are there themes like that that come up in your podcast? And by the way, what's the name of your podcast?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's called Talk Amongst Yourself. So the podcast is it started out as Talk Amongst Friends, and then when I decided to go out on my own, I wanted to kinda keep it so that I could just use everything else that I was using, so I chose Talk Amongst Yourself. So it's just me basically talking to everyone else out there, but I'm still talking to myself. So I kept the name and I just used yourself. I just changed it from Talk Amongst Friends to Talk Amongst Yourself. And it's just a solo conversation. So I kind of just pick a subject and I talk about that subject. And sometimes I'll change the subject right before it starts. So I'm kind of I'll do some of that stuff, but I kind of build up a what I'll do is I'll build like a outline. So there's an outline that I build and then I just go off of that. Like there are certain themes or things, but then I just talk off the cuff because I don't want to I don't know, like some of it is scripted. Like the beginning will be scripted. Like I say the same intro and the same outro is almost the same every time. Almost. It'll change so the outro will change depending on what the subject was. So the last one that I just did, it's today. I just did one this morning. I'm gonna release it at 6, but I'm gonna be online with it. I've never tried it. I'm gonna try like a premiere. I've never done it, but I'm gonna try a premiere. And that one is so this is my 16th episode. I'm doing 18 episodes this season. So I'll be wrapping it up here in the next week or two. And this one that I'm doing is called The Weight of Constant Crisis. Because right now I feel like we are in constant crisis every day with what is going on in the world. Like we wake up, if you look at the news, oh my God, what else is out there? It's one thing after another. And just when you think there's no way something could get any worse than it is, then something else dumb happens. Like, I talk a little bit, in today's podcast about um Marjorie, you know, Taylor Greene. But in the beginning, people might not catch this, but I called her Marjorie Green Taylor. But People may not notice that first one. They will. They'll be like, "That's not her name," but it was purposeful. But so I'm talking about her, like how she's made a 180, you know? And it's like, it's a trap. Like, I really feel like it's a trap. Like, I understand that we all go through metamorphosis, but come on, man. Um, so I just talk about either happenings that are going on today, or I'll talk about myself. It's more towards, I think it's more about, I would say different subjects, it's just a bunch of different subjects, um,
So how do
that
these before we leave the Marjorie Taylor Greene, piece, I was just
yeah,
reading something about, body language and linguistic experts who, pay attention to this kinda stuff, and they would agree with you that this is totally
yeah,
disingenuous, that they're
yep,
she is when she's phrasing things like toxic politics, um, there is no uh, genuine, authentic feeling behind it. There's no emotion. It's not necessarily robotic, but it's very mechanical. And
right,
so, yeah, they have a tendency to agree with you that there is
yeah,
some other hidden agenda behind this, and she hasn't
absolutely,
made a real true conversion to
right.
enlightenment. So,
Yeah, I mean, she's the queen of toxic politics, I mean,
yeah,
seriously, and, so, yeah, she's definitely on the agenda for today, but, yeah, it's a trap. There's
so,
just no way. There's no
yeah.
way. Like I said, we all change. We all have a change of heart at certain times, but I just don't buy this. I don't buy it. It's a complete 180. And then she's gonna, nobody. I mean, what are we coming into? We're coming into January, right? So we all know she's gonna have about a year and a half to prepare for the midterms. So I think it's a ploy to get elected in those midterms somewhere. I think she's gonna make another move, or else she's gonna maybe she's gonna go for the presidency. I don't know
Mhm.
what she's got. She's got what? I'm sorry, the midterms are next year. I was right. I was wrong. The midterms are in 2026,
Yeah,
November, correct?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so that's when she's going to I think she's gonna run for something, and she's trying to distance herself from the party because she knows right now that even that MAGA I won't say what I
yeah,
normally call them. The MAGA base is not happy. They're not happy with him, and they certainly aren't happy with her now either,
yeah,
which I almost feel like her breaking away from him is gonna make his base a little bit stronger. So, it's just interesting timing.
yeah.
I I
How
don't believe it.
how do you decide what topics you wanna deal with on your podcast?
Well, I sat down, I wrote a bunch of things down on a piece of paper, like, just a bunch of topics, like, what would be good, and, what do I wanna talk about? And, a lot of those topics sometimes will just come with the week. Like, if I have something that is on my mind, I'll just go with whatever that is, but I do have I mean, I had the whole season ahead of time almost, and it's metamorphosized through the whole entire time because, um, things change, so, like, next week, I might think about, what's going on at work. For example, one of my topics was layoffs that become emotional disregard, right? Like I that wasn't in my show, that wasn't in the list, but I was going through it at the time. So I was like, wait a minute, I got to talk about this because this is exactly what we're going through. And so sometimes I pick topics like if I'm thinking about something and I'm like, "Oh, that will be something good for this week." If something, like happened to me that week or whatever and I feel like it's a good topic, I'll talk about that. Like somebody who was very influential and still is a very influential part of my life was my ninth grade high school counselor. She was my high school counselor all through high school, and that woman saved me from walking off a cliff more times than you can even imagine, and, she is headed to hospice. She's in hospice right now, and, that is a heartbreaker for me, and so I talked about that. I talked about, the child who becomes the parent, and so that's what influenced me to have that one. So I talked about my own experiences, but also my experiences with her and watching her daughter have to go through that same thing at this point and turn around and start taking care of her mom and make sure that she's okay, and, um, yeah, so that's how sometimes these episodes develop. I'll do them ahead of time or, whatever is happening that week, just like the whole Charlie Kirk thing, I wanted people to know who he really was. He's not somebody I don't think he's somebody that we all should have been cheering for. So yeah, it just depends on what's happening. What's happening? I was the week before I was thinking about my family and how we sweep things under the rug. So that became an episode. So it just depends on what's happening. So
Yeah.
it's ever evolving, I would say. Even though I might have an episode, I might push it off and then pretty soon it's at the end and it's not even doesn't even exist anymore. So
So where do we find your podcast? Is it on like YouTube or is it on Spotify or both or where?
it's both, it's everywhere, YouTube, Spotify, all kinds of there's other places too that it's at that I don't know off the top of my head, but it's in it's on Amazon, it's in different places
Yeah.
for sure, so you should be able to find the videos are obviously on YouTube I don't put the videos on Spotify, I let that be a purely listening experience, which is definitely different than seeing someone's face, right?
Yeah. Well, you have my permission if you want to put this link on your podcast. So then that's kind of another episode, if you feel so inclined. Um,
Awesome, awesome,
yeah,
sure I
sure.
will.
I mean,
And then maybe
yeah,
maybe we can plug your podcast. I've definitely watched it and we you and I have had a completely and totally different conversation than any of the other conversations pretty much you've had.
yeah.
But that's kind of cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, in fact, in that regard, I mean, this cosmic consciousness title sort
Yeah.
of came to me through some of my own guides and inspiration. But is there anything in all of those kind of conversations we've had, either with our noetic science group or our light workers group or anything like that, that have been a part of your life? Is that, or is cosmic consciousness and all this etheric, mystical talk kind of just out of bounds of your own personal experience? Is there anything in your life that comes up like that? Maybe even in paganism, there has been that kind of a mystic element at some
Oh
point.
yeah. Yeah, mystic always is a part of paganism, but I think I'm more right now of a listener, I think, because and I think I kind of prefer so there's 2 groups that we go to. I kind of prefer the group that isn't like I think are they both ions or is one ions and one is like
Yeah, the Sunday one is light workers, kind of our
yeah, the light
meditation group.
workers is my favorite. Yeah, the light workers is my favorite because I feel like it's I guess it's not specific, but you come with readings and we meditate on those readings and then we get to talk. But it's so funny because sometimes we don't even talk about the readings because we just get on these tangents. But that group is my favorite because it just resonates with me. Just everybody just sharing their opinions and their thoughts and I feel like I learn so much from everyone. And sometimes when I go quiet, it's because I'm listening and I'm thinking and I'm digesting what
Hmm.
people are saying. And I'm like, "Ah, that makes sense." So it's kinda cool because I kinda feel like, it's a learning group for me, but it's also not just it's more opinion like, I guess, for me. And I like that. I like knowing what other people are thinking, knowing, how they feel about things. For me, that feels so much more genuine because it's coming from you. It's coming from inside of you. And I just, it's not, I mean, sure, we all learn things from other teachers and stuff, but to be able to share that and we're all sharing kind of like different parts of our own teachings or things that we learn. And that's what my favorite part is about that group.
So, from the meditation or mystic or spiritual aspects of your own sensibilities, what is it that might even come close to like this cosmic consciousness sort of a title, or the things that come up, not just in terms of politics, because a lot of times in light workers, we're even intersecting the politics with our own spiritual journeys and things like that.
Mhm.
How does that play out for you?
Well, I think a lot of that I think the politics kind of circles our group because that it's part of life right now for us, and it's very upfront for us. And you're seeing the worst in human beings and you're seeing the best in human beings at the same time. Everybody feels like there's some shift coming on, whether you're whether you are Catholic, whether you are Christian, whether you are pagan, whether you are Buddhist, everybody kinda is it's weird because everybody's kind of like, there's something going on, there's something in the air, there's some feeling we all have that's bigger than us. And, I think that plays a part in my personal life, but life in general, just politics, religion. I mean, I'm not a big religion, but I'm more spiritual, but just it's swirling around us, and I think we all have a sense of it. And I it, it's bigger than us. So what's bigger than us? What's bigger than the earth? What's bigger than the cosmos, the cosmic, what we see out there? It's bigger than we are. It's way bigger than we are. And I kind of think that there's no way we're the only ones here. It can't be this big because it's a playground we don't really get to play in. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, we can't just travel out there and be out there, you know? We don't have the means. So, it just doesn't make sense that we would be the only ones in this huge monster, ginormous universe.
Well, in fact, that's been a topic that a couple of our members talk about quite a bit, even with this three-eye atlas that has just kind of traveled behind the sun, and now real science, hard science, I should say, not real science, but hard science has even provided some pictures from the Hubble, um, and the connection between that and what you're talking about with, okay, there's got to be something else out there. Some people have speculated that this three-eye atlas is in fact, an alien vessel come
Yeah.
to, send us frequencies, vibrations that'll help us move forward in our own, planetary development, things like that, which in fact, in some ways, connects with your statement a little earlier about your interests in Egyptian mythology and things like that,
Mhm.
where
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to Robert G. Temple's book, The Sirius Star Mystery, where the Dogon were imbued with by the fish god from that planetary system, imbued with advancements in civilization that moved us
Mhm.
forward. And how
Yeah.
would they know all of these things that you couldn't have the technology to observe? And
Right.
so, okay, so you see where I'm headed here in asking
Yeah,
you that
I mean, look at our
question?
own technology. Look at our own technology. I mean, we went from horse and carriage to freaking cars and spaceships in a matter of what, 50 years? Like, it's something crazy,
So, what are
how that
your
happened.
speculations? What are your hunches, your intuitions about, okay, the universe, the cosmos is so big, there's got to be, and even Carl Sagan talks about this, there's got to be other life forms out there.
Absolutely.
But is there,
We're not the only life forms. There's no way, whether it's energy life forms or whether it's I mean, we are energy, you know? We just don't know what's after, right? Like, some of us wanna speculate and think that we all know, and maybe we do know, I don't know, but I think that, um, we're just not the all be it, and none of us really know. We're not gonna know until that day comes.
yeah. So, and this is going to sound like it's changing the subject, but it's not. It's on this kind of a topic. What keeps you going? What sustains you? What I mean, and this can be concrete, it can be abstract, doesn't matter. What provides you hope? What keeps you um, on a path that's healthy? Um, do you see what I'm asking here? What
Hmm.
what
I mean, I think, what sustains me and what keeps me is, um, I like alone time. Alone time really helps me out. I take the time. The fact that I'm older, and when you get older, you gain boundaries. So keeping some boundaries and being with the people you want to be with, not necessarily following the group, kind of doing your own thing. And I don't think you learn that until later on in life. And I think doing my own thing is what keeps me going, and listening to music is what keeps me going. And I think writing keeps me going. My podcast keeps me going. Um, and the hope of a future keeps me going because there's a part of me that thinks that there may be it's like a little smidgen of hope comes in, and then all of a sudden it's dashed when it comes to us as a whole. And I don't know. Either we're going to implode as human beings or we're going to move forward. And so hoping that we move forward in some way, shape, or form, I guess, keeps me going. And then
yeah.
being parts of these groups that I'm a part of keeps me going.
So what is your um, obviously diverging futures? We, like you say, we, you know, un unplug ourselves from life, or we develop a future that's livable and healthy for everybody. Do you have a sense of what that hopeful future looks like? Do you have some images or feelings, sensibilities of what the structures of that kind of life would look like for everyone?
I don't even know. I mean, first of all, I think in order for us to succeed, we have to find some humanity. We have to find our moral compass that we've lost, because I feel like we have completely lost our moral compass, and it's like non-existent in a lot of places. And I think if we could find our moral compass, and if we can, I mean, this sounds so Star Trek-ish, I swear, but if we can start seeing people as human beings, as we're all the same, we just have different aspects of ourselves. We're just unique. We just believe in different things, and it's okay if you believe those things. If we could be okay with other people believing other things, the world would probably be a better place. Because right now I think we are way too concerned with your next door neighbor and what they're doing. I think as long as they're not hurting each other physically or anything like that, then we should be okay with that. Then we should be okay with that. But we're not okay with that. And I think there will always be bad humans. There will always be bad humans.
Do you get well, I know this is impossible to answer, but here I am, a white male. I'm the paragon of, the culture. Everything is geared to benefit somebody that's like me, but
Sure.
you're in a different part of that spectrum of
Yeah,
culturally. And
sure.
I don't know that there's any way for me to totally understand. I think I sympathize and maybe even empathize with people of color, different sexualities, different cultures, different religious, spiritual beliefs, all of that. And that's where I lay some hope is that, okay, we have an appreciation, understanding, and actually not just tolerance, but an acceptance and an appreciation for those differences from your perspective as a gay biracial female that's not in a position like me to benefit from, social norms and structures. What what does that um, feel like? What is that? Um, what has that been like? And where do you feel like that will be with a hopeful future? I don't know. Is that too complex? I mean, I'm
Mm,
struggling with how to
kind
ask
of, I
that, but
mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, I've made things happen on my own, like, but I'm still being held back. I don't know how to I mean, a good example would be my job. I'm doing management work, but I don't have a management title, which is jacked up. However, the male part in my place, which I've taken over his job, he's taken over the person above him, but he got the pay for that. He got the interim. I didn't get the interim manager, apparently because he's still manager but yet I'm doing that manager job for way less money. So, I think that struggle is gonna always be there, at least for now, and, I don't I don't know how we change that. I don't know how we change that or how that changes.
yeah, it's a shift. It's not only a shift in the political structures, cultural structures, but it's, I think, also a shift in consciousness. And hence the title of this podcast, Cosmic Consciousness. When we can see the bigger pictures, we really truly understand where these injustices and inequalities and the dark side of discriminations lie. That
Mhm.
women do the same job or even more intense kinds of jobs, but don't have equal pay. I mean, that's a pretty simple principle: equal pay for
Right,
equal work. But
right.
for us to be able to embody that and actually make that a reality seems right now to be a will. I mean, the fact that the United
Yeah,
States is just simply not ready to elect a female president,
right?
well, the rest of the world
In
seems to have no
2025.
issues with that at all.
Right, it's almost embarrassing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's, we're definitely in a retrograde, cultural moment that
Yep,
seems fairly apparent, so
yeah.
well, is there anything else that I should have asked you? Anything else that, you know, feels like, you were that was rattling around that we never quite got to, or finishing an answer to a question that I'd asked that, feels a little incomplete?
No, I think we're there. I think we're good. I
Good,
think we're good.
great. Well, I have really appreciated your participation in our groups, getting to know you, and feel like you're a valuable component, not just for our little groups that meet, a couple of times a month, but
Yeah.
I've always had this conviction when I'm in my the commencement ceremony for my master's degree. Right
Mhm.
next to me is a lesbian, and I always had this sense in all of my graduate school classes and everything, that there was a more holistic, healthy, broader view she had than I had, and that if we are deprived of that to any extent, it makes us poorer as individuals, as communities, as a culture, as a planet. And so we need to knock down the walls of our perceptions to be able to have this kind of a cosmic consciousness that people understand each other at not just those intimate levels, but in more collective, cultural, global, international levels. And so
Mhm.
I think your contribution to society at large is not just what you do on your podcast, but your presence, just your mere presence represents something that is really valuable and, you know, keep on keeping on kind of a
It's
thing.
awesome.
So, and no,
Well,
no, but
thank
I
you.
really do mean that. I mean that there's something existential about that that really permeates the culture, permeates our lives, permeates our consciousness in a healthy way. So, um,
Well, thank you. I mean,
appreciate that.
understanding is awesome when you see it in people, so
Yeah.
thank you for having me, I appreciate it.
Right. You're welcome. And so I'll sign off and then hang on just for a little minute after I stop the recording, and we'll chat and wrap things up a
Alright,
little bit.
sounds
So
good.
this has been the Cosmic Consciousness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel Sage, and it's been my pleasure to have Kaylene Granado Nemececk with us today. So until next time, peace, everyone.